All right, guys. So today I have a very special guest. Thank you so much, Miss Jasmine Thomas, for being with us today. And I'm so excited to have her on because she is literally a manifestation boss. She is a boss in every sense of the word, entrepreneur, life coach, and she's just been doing incredible things. So I want Jasmine to come on here and share her story and to inspire you guys out there with the law of attraction and just how you can use these powers in your favor, especially when manifesting abundance, because that's what we're discussing today. So, Jasmine, thank you so much for.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm really excited, and I hope that everyone who's tuning in will get something out of this, and yeah, they can step into their own power too.
Great. So, Jasmine, we actually recorded a podcast episode that's not up yet as of right now. So, I would ask you guys to go check that one out because we did talk a little bit on current events, on different things, and Taking Back Your Power is my podcast. So if you guys want to check that out, the link will be in the description. But for today, for the sake of this video, we're going to be getting into your manifestation stories, Jasmine, primarily around manifesting abundance. So,
Mhm.
what is the main thing that helped you start out in the law of attraction?
Yeah, so I'll be like completely transparent because I think that that will really help people like open up and learn more about me because I don't want people to think that all of a sudden, I just arrived. So, as I shared a little bit on the podcast, I come from a family that the lineage is full of poverty, brokenness, abuse, a lot of things that you would think that would hold someone completely down. And I did get kind of caught up in some of those patterns. And what happened was I had a really, really bad heartbreak. And my fiance and I, now we've moved past that, but that heartbreak, a lot of things I learned about myself. And one of the biggest things I learned was self-love. That's where I really needed to grow. And I didn't fully love myself the way that I do now. And that's what really brought me into manifesting abundance was that core value of self-love. And I learned how important it was to dig deep within myself. That way I could radiate out and attract all the beautiful things to me. And I believe that when people apply that self-love and really operate from that space, it's almost like you become a magnet. Like everything is possible for you. You just, it's like opening a miracle can, like everything just comes at you because you fall in love with yourself, and the universe does, it falls in love with you too, and like, here you go, this is all for you. So
Right.
I would say that's probably like the foundation of kind of what happened that brought me to that point of attracting that.
And how did you first come across the law of attraction?
Yeah, so it was crazy how it all happened because after the heartbreak, I kind of like went deep within. I was like, I gotta heal. Like it's a lot of things going on in here. And as I went through my healing process, I came across people like Danny Watson.
Mm.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, and Reese within Yes Supply. They were just like amazing leaders in that area as they talked about law of attraction. I was like, what's going on? And I could feel their vibrations. They were like, it was so amazing. And I started learning about how they manifested partners, how they manifested money, and they like quit their jobs that they really weren't that passionate about. And it just kind of got me going and more interested into what they were doing. And it just went from there to learning The Secret and reading that book and feeling the energy. And it just overflowed and led me to becoming a full-time entrepreneur and just attracting good things to me. And from there, it's like, I just want to keep going. I love it so much.
Great. And what would you say is the biggest thing that helped you get to where you are now in terms of manifestation? What was that one thing that you're like, oh, this clicks?
I would say the one thing was recognizing that we all need that support. It's the receiving mechanism that happens when you step out of the way and realize like you're not in control. And
Mm.
once you get into more of a receptive mode, I would say more feminine energy, it really, really helped because I'm a naturally like masculine person. And from what I've heard is like my horoscope is a Gemini. So what I've heard is Geminis are naturally masculine. I'm like, yeah, that's probably true. And so once I started tapping into the more feminine energy and stepping back and allowing and trusting, and for me that was trusting in God, it allowed me to receive more and manifest more easily.
Yeah. And I think that's really the bottom line with manifestation. And I think Dr. Joe Dispenza says this really well. It's allowing your manifestations to surprise you, putting
Mhm.
that intention out there and being specific on it, and then allowing the way that it comes to you to be a surprise. And that makes manifestation fun, kind of like letting go, letting the universe, letting God do his work, and everything will align as it should.
Mhm.
So whenever you are manifesting, let's say you want to manifest a certain amount of money, what would be the steps that you take that you feel that really help you get that?
One of the biggest steps I take is meditating, to be honest. And when I meditate, it's more so like I'm not forcing it. Like I'm not trying to like make it happen. That's the difference from where I was before I kind of got into self-love, because when you really don't love yourself, it's easy to want to control every little detail. And when you operate in that way, it takes away from God being able to meet you,
Mm-hmm.
in the middle. So the meditations that help me the most, Amanda Francis has a lot of great meditations, and one of hers is receiving. And I literally like listen to that all night long. I do that when I am not consciously aware. So what I'll do is I'll say what I want as if I'm saying my prayers at night,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just go to sleep and I rest. And usually within like the next day or the next morning, something comes up, that I intended, and I kind of forgot about it by the time I gone to sleep. But that's when I'm the most receptive. That's when all of us are the most receptive, when we're not fully consciously awake. And it happens for me because I'm not trying to manure it. And if I wake up and I feel like I should do something, like some type of action, I move from that place. Not necessarily I have to, but I get to. And I try to make it as fun as possible. And something else that my coach introduced to me was the play profit pleasure play profit model, where you indulge in pleasure, things you love to do, you play around with that energy, and then that also leads to profit. That has been amazing for me, like adding that into my day. As I told you, like to get my energy up, I had to play like some fun music and get myself into that mode. And also too, with the pleasure aspect, like I have my green smoothie next to me, like for me that's pleasurable, and just kind of infusing that. And yeah, I know the money's coming, it actually has. And I think that's what the notification came up when we were on here, and it kind of clicked out. So
Uh-huh.
it's working.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's so important whenever you are manifesting something. I think that a lot of people go into manifestation kind of with a very, what's the word? Like a desperate attitude, especially when
Mhm.
it comes to money, because a lot of people want to manifest money out of necessity and need, which is natural. And the main thing about that is when you go into this with a mindset of, I need, you naturally create a vibration of resistance. But with your method, you're creating by dancing around, or having something pleasurable, playing. This method ensures that you have a high vibration, right? You know, the vibration of excitement,
Yes.
love. And that's what it, I think, boils down to, as you were saying, self-love, having this mentality of, okay, I'm going to enjoy. That is what makes manifestation so much easier, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's fun. To
Yeah.
me, it's like magic, like alchemy, a pot. I'm mixing things together. That's how I, look at it, and it works for me. I love
Yeah,
it.
that's beautiful. And whenever you say a prayer at night and you're praying to God, you're asking for these things, do you usually pray for the thing that you want once, or do you find that you do it multiple times? How does that work for you?
Usually it's one time, and I'm not sure what people, I can't make a recommendation. I just go off of my vibe of what I do. I really only pray for something one time and I leave it alone. And I think it's because I don't want a desperate energy going out there. And also, like, the way that my faith and my belief is set up, I don't need to say something more than once because God heard me the first time,
Mm.
right? Like, if he gave me the desire, there's no reason for me to continuously repeat it. And I think since I've been operating from that headspace, it just comes more easily. And as you mentioned, like, there's no resistance. And I think that that's what people need to focus on more with the manifestation. You need to ask yourself this question. And I am in Amanda Francis's Money Mentality Makeover, and my coach, Ajanis, they both kind of say the same thing. Like, what in you didn't want your manifestation? Like, if you have some sort of resistance and it's not coming to you, why don't you want it? So if it's money, some people, and I know I had the same thing, like, I was resistant to a lot of money because I didn't want to pay a lot of taxes. I'm being honest, it's something so simple, like, what? And then I started thinking, like, Jasmine, like, first of all, if you get the right CPA, they're probably going to help you with the best claims, the best deductions, things like that. So you may not have to pay as much. And you also need to see it as, if you made a crap ton of money, why can't you manifest more money to pay the tax bill? Like, what's the holdup, And then my coach, Janice, says something really, really cool. She was like, you realize you live in a great country and it's almost like a membership fee. And once I started looking at it as a membership fee, like, okay, here you go. Like, yeah, I really do. It made me become more grateful. Like, I'm grateful to pay all these taxes because I'm helping other people, whether that's providing salaries, helping roads, helping schools. It just made it easier for me. And now it's like the money just comes, and yep, I can pay that tax bill with no resistance.
So you would say that your main limiting belief towards going or making more money was being in a higher tax bracket. Was that probably your main limiting belief, or did you have others that you overcame?
That was the main one. And I did have others. Like, I was nervous, especially with my fiance. He is an alpha male, right? So, like, I never pay for anything. And I was nervous and afraid that if I made more money than him, then the energy would shift, or he would not like it, or, you know what I mean? Like, I guess I almost felt like, oh, he wasn't going to feel like the man anymore, but we clearly had a conversation not too long ago, and it was like, please make more money than me. That's what he said. I'm like, okay, like, clearly if you're okay with this, it's fine. So that kind of helped, like, take back the resistance. And I was also afraid, were people going to start asking me for more money because I made money? And that's why I kind of was a little private about it, because I didn't want people to know, because I didn't want them to judge and all these different things. And the reality is they don't really care. They, in fact, want to pay me more, which is, you think the opposite, like, oh, if people knew I had this amount of money that they wouldn't want to. No, like, people enjoy paying and giving to you because all you're exchanging is energy. That's all that money is. That's, like, abundance is just energy. And once you get into the groove of exchanging that energy and people just enjoy it. They enjoy being around you. They'll pay you whatever you are desiring because they want your energy.
That's so true. And when we realize everything is energy, everything at its
Mhm.
core, we're energy at our core. Our cells at their smallest level are basically energy. And when we realize that and we become, and this is how I see it, is we have to become what we wish to attract, because we don't attract what we think, we attract what we are. And so you kind of have to start. And I want to hear your story behind this, because you did mention you did grow up in poverty, and to
Mhm.
go from that, and that's usually, you know, it affects your state of mind, it affects the way you view the world. To go from that place to where you are now, what would you say were the main steps that you took to go and kind of revamp and change your lifestyle?
Yeah, so I would say the main thing that helped me the most was having my mom didn't really place limitations on me.
Mm.
Like, it sounds so simple, but she would say, do whatever you want to do. And I'm like, okay. Like I never felt like I couldn't do something because I was poor, Black, a woman. Like, I never really felt that. And because I didn't feel that, I kind of had no resistance, and I attracted a lot of things to me. Like, even when I was in high school, like I attracted probably close to $100,000 in scholarships for school. Like,
Wow.
and that was intentional. So I guess I've always kind of been a manifester, just in different ways. I just didn't notice it. And I would say in college was when I really started to notice the whole poverty thing, was because I was kind of like on my own and starting to pay bills and having a household to kind of think about with my rent and all of those things. And during that time, I kind of started to build my faith more and like trusting in God. Like, look, I don't have a job, but I have $500 rent. Like, God, you don't have to do something. Because at one point I couldn't work because I was a student teacher, and it just like took up all of my time. And that allowed me to kind of like play around with what I say alchemy magic, and putting that intention out there and saying like, I need my rent paid like today.
Mm.
Like, it has to happen. And it did. It actually came in the form of an extra like check that I received as a scholarship. And it was
Huh.
exactly $500.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, let me cash this so I can take it to the office, and pay my rent. So that kind of like opened up the doors to see that there weren't any possibilities. And then like as I moved further and kind of grew more, I started to notice things come up. And I don't know what happens in your 20s. Maybe you experienced this, but it's like all your childhood stuff just starts like coming up.
Yeah.
And yes, I had to start talking to my inner child wherever I was in life. I guess the memory started to come up and the imprinting, and it was like, where did I see the struggles with money? And so I started kind of like working on my inner child and saying like, I know you experienced this with your parents. Maybe there was some like frantic or fear. Even if my parents, that's one thing about them, they never showed the things that were going on, but you know how you can just feel them internally. And that's what started to come up for me. And I started to heal that inner child and share with them like, it's okay. Big Jasmine is here to take care of you.
Wow.
I'm your parent. I'm going to help you to get through this fear that you have around money and scarcity and lack. And that was a cycle I also noticed within myself. Like, I'll spend money during this time, then I would like, cut back and save and all those things. And I started to break that cycle by healing the inner child. And now I feel so open, like I can make money at any time. There's no limitations on when I can have and when I can't have. And yeah, it's been a good journey.
Yeah, and I think that's everything, is that reparenting and being the
Mhm.
parent for yourself. And I think it was Louise Hay. I don't know if you've heard of her. She passed away, but she was one of the, self-love and greatest teachers I've ever heard. A lot of her talks are on YouTube. She has a lot of great books out. And Louise Hay talks about how we have to see ourselves each as like little babies. Look at people, look at yourself as like a little baby, and you wouldn't talk negatively to a little baby. You wouldn't yell at a little baby. You wouldn't be mean or, just be a bad parent to a little baby. And I mean, some people are, but that's a different topic. But that's how we have to see ourselves. And I think that is the bottom line, because our past, yes, a lot of stuff comes up from our past as we're healing. But I fully believe that we have to bring those things up. And I believe that, it was God bringing up those things from your past as a child for you to heal from, so that you could address them and that you could take dominion over your life and say, okay, I'm going to take it from here. Because that's a big thing about limiting beliefs and leveling up in your life, and your mentality is your past. And once you bring up the stuff from the past that is uncomfortable or you feel is holding you back, you're now in control and in a place of power where you can shed light on it and disperse it and then reprogram with something new, right?
Yes.
So what would you say is an important step in that process of just healing, other than, going into the inner child, but allowing yourself to bring in the new, kind of reprogram yourself with what it is that you do want?
Yeah. So one thing that helps me with reprogramming is repetition.
Mm.
And for a person like me, at first, I'm like, I'm not doing this all the time. I hate repetition. It's like, I'm ready to go to the next thing. Let's go, let's go, let's go. But one thing that I've learned about some of the most successful people spiritually, people that naturally attract abundance, is that they almost like do the same thing all the time. And they repeat those patterns, healthier patterns. And that's what builds the momentum. And that's what we're really looking for. Like when you constantly repeat, it gives you momentum that goes so fast. It's like building that snowball effect, and it just like literally piles up so much so that you almost don't have to do whatever it is that helped you again. So when I say repetition, I mean like listening to specific affirmations of things about myself. And something that I typically do is take affirmations. I will write them down for every single area of my life and the things that I actually want to see change. And I state them in a way as if they already are. And another thing too is shifting from future focus or past focus to now focus. That really, really changed things for me, because when you're so far reaching into the future, you can't enjoy the now. Now is the future. And that's something that I really learned with my coach. She just really put that in my mind. She's like, okay, yes, you're making these affirmations. These are good. You want to repeat them, but you want to act as if they are happening at this moment. And once I kind of did that, it almost felt like a norm. And that's what you have to create, is the new reality that you want is now normal. It's now like, for me, like, it's normal to make $20,000 to $50,000 a month. It's normal for me to have a successful relationship. It's normal for me to have good friends, good people around me. And once you kind of normalize, and now don't get me wrong, your body's gonna, like, sometimes your body pushes back, because our minds, the vortex, it's like 100 times faster than the physical plane, the physical reality. And our bodies, for me, like I had a lot of ascension symptoms, which I mentioned to you like a little bit earlier. a lot of allergic reactions,
Yeah.
different changes in the body. But I view it as a blessing because it's like, you know, that up leveling process is actually happening for me, and my body is going to catch up. And when you are like deciding to go to that next level, pay attention to the things you need the most. Like for me, I need naps. Like that's my new thing, you know, taking those naps, doing more like self-care practices, self-love, like getting in tune with myself. And I know I shared this with you the other day, but like having crystals around me like really, really helps with the grounding process, because that's the thing. A lot of people ask for the up leveling and they do the work, but then we can self-sabotage if we're not careful of caring for ourselves and coming into this new reality.
Mm. So what would you say is these self-care practices that you have that are just non-negotiable that you go to all the time, especially when you're not feeling so great?
Naps. That's probably like the biggest one. Keeping my rose quartz like around me when I am napping, like I put it under my pillow. That's another thing. I love being out in nature. So like I'll go out to my patio and just literally sit, leave my phone behind a
Mm.
lot. That has really helped me. And when I'm just like in the moment, oh my gosh, it just does so much for me. As well as like yoga practices, which I'm excited because I'll start doing kundalini yoga
Oh,
and
okay.
opening up like more energy. So that's going to be fun. But right now I'm just kind of like getting in the foundation, the basics that like really, really just grounds me and allows me to just really look within. And I think that's what the self-care practices are all about. It's just looking within and seeing who you are becoming and being okay with that. You know, self-acceptance is really what is stemming from that.
Yeah, that's very important. And that's the thing, is that often when you're an entrepreneur, it's kind of hard as an entrepreneur to give yourself the breaks or give yourself that self-care. And it sounds like for you, you've struck a balance between working and achieving your goals and the self-care, giving yourself naps. Because for me, thinking about taking a nap back then would have been like, oh my God, I'm wasting time. How did you come to a place of like, okay, I deserve this, I have to strike this balance?
hmm when I felt like I was losing myself, to be honest with you, because I'm like, what is going on with me? Why am I reacting like this? Like, I noticed that I was like a little more moody,
Mm.
and I really was kind of like pulling back. I was self-sabotaging, all because I needed more rest. Like, I know that sounds so small, but it's really big. And that really helped me to see like, okay, like if I want to be successful, I need to chill out as much as possible. And now I'm in such a groove to where work doesn't feel like work. And maybe it's because I also carry the intention with my whole entrepreneurship journey that I don't want to work. I want things to
Mhm.
be passive and things to kind of be brought to me. So, whatever you choose, whether it's to work in your business or to make it passive, your actions have to match that. So if you're constantly work, 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 you're producing a work, work, work life. If you are wanting it to be passive, then you have to produce results like bringing or take action that's going to bring people on to help and support you so that you can get to whichever dimension you want it to be. It's really up to you, and your actions have to align with that.
So what would you say to somebody who is just starting out, doing their own business and is kind of in that work mode? Because as you were saying earlier about how you were very much in your masculine, and the
Mhm.
masculine energy is very much grind mode, working, things like that. And the feminine is more, passive or creative or more, self-care, relaxation kind of thing. Did you ever have to get into a place of balancing those two when starting your business, or have you felt like you have to turn one on versus the other one? That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's all about the flow. When I first started my business, I was definitely more so in the masculine, and it led to burnout.
Mm.
And I did not have a great social life. It was not a good idea to work every day of the week, but I did
Mhm.
it. And then, of course, once the burnout came, that's when, again, those like self-sabotaging behaviors start kind of picking up, you pull back, all of that. And I did that probably two times. Yeah, I clearly didn't learn the first time, and it's okay. Sometimes people take longer. And then I was like, all right, I have to figure out something. What can I do? So I started incorporating a lot more like breaks. So at least 3 to 4 weeks out of the year, it's like, nope, not working,
Mm.
not doing anything. And that's typically like um the holidays, my birthday week, and I think like the 4th of July week, because I know those are times that I'll spend more, time with family. And then it started being, okay, now how can you shorten up the days of the week? So like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I don't really work on business. Unless, I need to do something like really small, but typically like I don't touch those days. Like I try to make sure that those days are filled with fun. And then I have Monday through Thursday to get done whatever I need to get done. And even then, like taking breaks in between, going on walks, incorporating like yoga in the middle of the day, just whatever small things that need to happen for me, I try to do. If it's drinking, my tea or whatever, just infusing it to find that balance and setting time limits and time restraints, because I think that a lot of people feel like if they don't get it done that day, that they're like, oh my gosh, my business is gonna lose. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And that energy is just not what you want to be in. You want to be in a very trusting energy and knowing that like what you're doing is enough. And that is probably where a lot of that grinding comes from, because you are searching for significance. You may not feel like you are enough, and so you tend to overdo when you don't feel like you're enough. And for me, this probably happened within the last 2 or 3 months. I started realizing like I am enough, and that has really been powerful for me, because I feel like I don't have to do. All I need to do is be.
Mm-hmm.
And once I start to be, everything just, the doors just open. Like the floodgates just happen. And being is more important than doing.
Mm-hmm.
Most definitely.
Yeah. And what would you say to somebody who's like, well, what does being mean? What does that mean to you?
Being is who you are in this moment, in this time, this universe, this galaxy. That's all it is. It's just simply who you are, and who you are to who you serve. And for me, it's God, right? So God doesn't see me as a working, doing person. He doesn't see that. He sees my soul, my radiance. He sees the beauty within me. So that's how I have to view myself. So when I take that lens off, I'm like, okay, if I'm looking at it from God's perspective, would I do X, Y, and Z? Would I beg for this? Would I overdo this? No, because I'm a being, it's already mine. And
Mm.
when you operate from that space of it's already mine, I don't have to overdo it. I don't have to perform to get something, because it's already mine.
And Jasmine, seeing you today, I see a very confident, very self-assured woman. And I wanted to ask you, have you always been this way, or is this something that you've had to work on?
I have not always been this way. And it is something that like I've had to work on. Would I say that I've had confidence? Yes, but not to this level. I've not been this most self-assured. And the things that I feel like took me out of my confidence was probably societal norms. That has played a heavy role on my shoulder, as well as religion. So I actually had this conversation last night with my fiance, and we were kind of just talking about like the roles that we play in each other's lives. And when we first began dating, and people can kind of I associate love with entrepreneurship too. Like, I don't know. So maybe someone can kind of get something out of this. But I allowed religion to tell me what I needed to do. And I think entrepreneurs kind of feel that way too, where they hear all these things like, you need to do this, you need to have an email list, you need to be on this platform. And they hear all these what I have to do, where they're really not able to be themselves. And for me, like even in my relationship, like, and again, like, you know, I'm from the South, right? So like a Southern woman they have to cook, they have to clean, they can't do all these things. And my fiance and I, we don't have those roles. Like we just support each other in whatever way that looks like at that moment in that time. And I think that more people have to operate like that even too, like in their entrepreneurship. And that's what really, I feel like once that burden was kind of lifted of what I had to do, what I had to be, the confidence just kind of came naturally, because you stopped caring so much about what you thought you had to do or perform. And you kind of got a mentality of forget all of that. Like, I don't have to do that in order to be successful. I can just follow what I know is good for me. And that builds your confidence when you are following that like intuition. And in your spirit, you just know something is right for you. And I like to call it tests, when I feel like God is kind of testing my intuition and my feelings about things. And most recently, the stock market. That's like the example that I feel like I give to everyone, because of course this film is probably going out later, but like on Monday, the stock market was way up. Right. Mm-hmm. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Da, da, da. And they're like, yes, I can't wait to keep this money. And me and my intuition was like, get out. Like, get out, get out, get out. And it didn't make sense, because everyone else was like, stay in. Yes, I'm buying more. I was like, no, I'm not. And I sold my stock. Of course, I made money off of it, which was great. And the next day, the market went down.
Yep.
It was the opposite of what everyone else was doing, what they were saying. And the logic was kind of like out of it. Like I had no logical explanation, besides I knew in my knower, that's what I call it, that it was time for me to like pull out of that, you know? And I think that's kind of where the self-assurance and that confidence comes from, is following your intuition and building it. And how I would say I built that intuition, because someone new to this, building their confidence, they may be like, well, how did you know to listen? And how do you develop that? One thing I stopped doing was asking everyone their opinion. And what they thought when I was younger. And maybe you experienced this too, where you kind of like asked everyone what they thought. Did that happen for you?
Yeah, of course. I think as women specifically, we second guess ourselves a lot. We kind of naturally want, I don't want to say naturally, but it's kind of society conditions us to want validation from others. And if we can't explain intuition in like scientific terms, but we do have it. And it's so true. And I think anyone watching, you need to start trusting your intuition more. That little gut feeling, I call it the inner compass. We all have that. We all are born with that. It's innate. And we're conditioned out of it as we grow up, as we grow older. We're taught to look at things through our logic mind, you know, in our brain. But our heart or our intuition or your soul, whatever, it's always pulling you towards what you need to know. And I think that, God speaks to us through within many times. And yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and not only not asking people's opinions, not caring when they share them.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big thing. And it's mainly because I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I know that I know that I know what I'm doing. If I'm the alchemist, if I'm the scientist of my life, I don't need other people's approval. I don't need their validation because I'm enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm enough. And if I fail, which I don't really believe that you fail, I believe that you learn, and if I get a chance to learn, I'll get a chance to learn and I'll move on from that. And it's okay. So that's really how I feel like I've built my own confidence and reassurance and self-acceptance. And it has really changed my life.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. And I notice because you have a very calm energy, you have that calmness. And I think one thing that we have to realize, especially those who are, going through a confidence and self-love journey, is that confidence is not something that's like really loud and in your face. It's usually something very calm, like a calm sense of knowing, that you just know
Yeah.
everything. And that's why my motto in life is everything's rigged in your favor. Because even
Mm-hmm.
though people may say, well, there's a lot of, this and that, or bad things happen in life, and there's injustice and all this in the world, but I say, well, literally it's a mindset that I choose to adopt. I choose to say that to myself, everything's rigged in my favor, because that puts you in this place of, okay, life is not happening to me, it's happening for me.
Mm-hmm.
Even the bad stuff, it's like being an alchemist, as you're saying, is I take the bad stuff or the negative stuff that happens in my life and I say, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I gain from this? And like you said,
Mm-hmm.
there is no failure. I don't believe in failure either. It's just lessons. It's just, the universe telling you, okay, this path is not for you, or
Mm-hmm.
there's something else that you need to go into, or, and that's how I see it. And perhaps you could relate to that, is, the bad stuff that has happened, quote unquote bad. I think
Right.
our ego is what likes to label things good or bad. And some people be like, well, that's
Mm-hmm.
like delusional. Call me delusional, whatever. But literally is having that mentality of like, okay, go with the flow. If you trust in yourself, which confidence is trusting in yourself, and Jasmine trusting Jasmine. And if you go with that flow, everything starts to align. And the way
Mm-hmm.
we see things start to align is by looking back on our life and looking back at our struggles. For me, at least, it's been that way, where I look back and I see, okay, all this bad stuff happened, or this negative stuff happened, and look where it led me, and look what I learned, and look how much I've grown. And I say that so much about this year has been one of the toughest years for myself and for the collective. And
Yes.
but I have grown so much, to the point where the things that I thought that I wanted, I no longer want. And
Mm-hmm.
that is what I think is the most important thing, is when you're going through struggle, when you're going through these processes, when you're failing and all these things, is look at them as working in your favor, because they're helping you grow. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. 2020 feels like it's been like 10 years wrapped in one. So I totally get it. And that happened to me too. Like a lot of the things that I was kind of like focusing on really weren't going to take me to where I really wanted to go. And what I really deeply wanted was freedom,
Mm.
abundance, and love. Like that was what I really, really wanted. And I mean, I've had to say no to so many things
Mm.
because those things were not leading me to that place. I've noticed as far as like people in my life, I think I have a great tribe, but sometimes energetically, I was like giving too much and I wasn't receiving as much as I needed. So it's kind of like I had to move past those relationships, and it's just been an evolution. Like I feel like that's for me, I'm constantly evolving and I'm constantly changing, and I'm okay with that. And this may be a little bit like, it sounds morbid, but I feel like my old self is dying and my new self is ascending. And it's like, oh my gosh, again, that's probably why I need more naps because the old self is like needing to go away, peacefully while the new self ascends. And it's just been really amazing. So amazing.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And I think we have to trust the process in that, instead of you beating yourself up for being more tired or taking more naps, you're just saying, oh, well, this is a part of the process, this is a part of the journey, and it's happening for a reason. And you're seeing it as you ascending, because this is the thing, is that when we create our new selves, or we, change our lives, we have to understand that it's like, okay, you can't serve two masters, in order to not be in that same place you were in the past. That part of you has to die in order for you to give birth to somebody who is aligned with what you want to see in your life. And that process is tough, right? It's tough to go through those changes. Yeah. And if you don't evolve, you die, basically. You not physically, but you die spiritually, you die mentally, you become complacent. And that's one thing I think anyone watching right now is, if you're going through tough things right now, it's normal and it's natural, but don't let it defeat you, right? Don't let it keep you down. Don't let it tell you anything about yourself other than the fact that you just have to evolve.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. The evolving process is challenging, but it's really worth it. And you also have to shift your perspective. And you mentioned this, like, what have I learned from this? Is this the right path for me? And if it's not, there's a new one. There's a better one. Like, always recognizing that there is better ahead. And I think that's just like all a part of manifesting. Sometimes people run into roadblocks and they get like, oh my gosh, like, no, I'm not supposed to have these roadblocks. Yes, you are. You are. And it's okay that you have those. Those roadblocks are there to teach you something about yourself, about others, about your choices, your evolution. And it's okay for you to have that process, and it's going to make things a lot better for you. And when you are grateful for that process, because that's another part of it, that gratitude and holding space for that, I think it makes everything easier.
Yeah. So what would you say is your favorite way of, getting into that vibration of gratitude, of love? What is, like, let's say you wake up, you have a bad day and things are going wrong. What do you do to shift into that perspective?
Yeah, I stop and I get still. And I think a lot of people are scared to be still. And that is why this whole spiritual awakening has been so challenging for people. Staying inside has been hard, not because we cannot do it. It is because we are afraid to be still and at one with ourselves. And when we do become okay with being at one with ourselves, that gratitude naturally will start to come out of you, because you start to look around and you start to process and see that you are in a much better place than you were before, and that things are better for you than they were before. And when you get to that space, you start to take in what is around you and what is going well. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm overthinking this. I'm making this harder than it needs to be. I need to just stop for just a moment and appreciate life, appreciate breath, like legit breath. You're alive. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
If you didn't have breath, you would be dead. And clearly, if you're alive, this is your moment. This is your time. And starting to look at life from a different perspective of like purpose. Sometimes I think when we quote unquote have a bad day, we're moving too fast. we're moving too much. We're taking in too much energy of certain things. And one energy I think we take in too much is definitely with our phones, with social media, technology, and taking on people's issues, people's problems, taking things very personally. I'm a typically more empathetic, so like I feel a lot, which is probably why I like alone time.
Yeah, same
You
here.
know. Yeah, and just getting in that moment, that gratitude, I feel like truly changes your life. Like, oh my gosh, like I remember when I first started doing a gratitude journal. Now I don't really do it as much because I think I have a natural state of gratitude. But I remember when I first started doing that and how much joy I found in the process. And every day I had so many things to write down, like that were happening to me, because again, it was like that momentum, that snowball effect, and life just, it was like life or the universe just kind of like brought everything to my feet. Everything that I wanted, I didn't have to chase. I didn't have to make come to me. It just fell there.
Yeah, that's everything, because it became your state of being, that you became this naturally high vibrational, grateful person. And that's what happens. The manifestation is so simple. When you want something, all you have to do is be in the energy, just be, slow down. Don't stop taking on external energies or letting your external worlds define your sense of being. Always, that's why gratitude is so important. And staying in this place of self-love is so important, because that is what aligns you with the things that you want. Like you said, it just comes to you, because we are magnets at the end of the day, or everything that we see external to us is mirroring back what we are. And that's a really tough thing for some people to swallow, to understand. But that's when I think that, as you said, we have to turn off our phones and not be on social media so much. That's something that I have had to do significantly, is, stop being online so much, stop scrolling, because that is affecting our inner peace. That's affecting our sense of self, because we're seeing all these things going on in the world, and we take them on as our own, and we take them on as our own reality. And that's the thing is, those of you who are, actively keeping up with current events,
Yeah.
and thinking, okay, I have to keep up with this. I have to know what's going on in the world. I have to, do all this. Understand that self-care and pulling back is doing more good for whatever it is that you're fighting for than you being drained of your energy constantly. And I think that we are more powerful out in the world, and we create more of an effect out in the world when we allow ourselves to realize our innate power, that we are creators. And literally, as you begin to create a shift within yourself, you start to see that shift outwardly.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And I think a lot of people need to kind of like tap into that more, because they want to do the external, but they haven't done the internal, and they wonder why the results are not changing, because you haven't changed.
Yeah. What would be your advice to, any women out there or women of color that are struggling during this time, that are feeling down because of what's coming to light, and, all these things that are happening, and are feeling that they're not in their power or feeling powerless? What would be your advice for them?
Yeah, I would say you are who you choose to be in this moment. No one, no media, no thing, nothing has any power over who you choose to be but you. I really say this with kindness, but you're not a victim. That's what I would say. You're not a victim. You are powerful, and you have to choose to be that power. You cannot allow what people have done or have chosen through systemic systems, through racial injustices, through prejudice, that you are less than, because you're not. It's a choice. Who you choose to show up in the world is a simple choice. So I would tell them, decide who you want to be and take hold to that, become that person. If you want to change the way the world is, change yourself and how you view yourself, and then go and lead in that place. I also want to make it very clear that if you are not on the front lines, that you are not doing something to help. I, in my personal beliefs, I don't want to protest, because that is not my way of life. That is not my way of helping. My way, how God purposed me in this earth, is to teach, is to be here in this moment, is to help people understand who they are and work from that to create the life that they want to see. So I would say, women of color, Black women, what do you want to create? What is it that you want to do for people? And work towards that every day. Become that every day. What are the projects that God has been nudging you to do, but you've been so drained in energy following all the things of this world? Because this is the reality. In the next few days, that topic is gone. So are you going to stop working towards helping Black people, or are you going to work on yourself to then help Black people for the rest of your existence on this planet? Don't be dismayed by what the media has surged up as something, as a big phenomenon, because they're going to drop it soon. And are you going to drop off and stop doing what you're doing, or are you going to continue? Are you going to help? Are you going to inspire? Because there are people that are waiting on you to come into your higher form, to come into your highest self. Don't let those people down. Those people can be those around you. Let's not negate how beautiful it is to affect and change one person. I think with a lot of the what's out in the media, the protesting, the loudness is needed, but only for so long, because what really needs to happen is changing one person's life a day at a time.
Well, that's very powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. And I completely agree. I think that especially as women, and you as a Black woman, me as a Latina woman, we have to also understand that we are more than our labels, and that we are spiritual beings. We are, powerful beings with the ability to create and to do incredible things. And I have noticed, especially with this platform here on YouTube, I went through my own struggles, in my early 20s and through college. Was heavily, a lot of just bad things happened in my life. And I created this platform out of that struggle, out of that growth that I had to go through, and, depression, anxiety, all these different things. And I truly believe that when we kind of turn all those things off from the outside, and we stop letting those things define us, and we go into our innate power, then we're in a place of empowerment to others, because I see you, Jasmine, and I think, wow, what an inspiring woman. And, to anybody out there, to any woman, but especially for the Black community, to see somebody like you with the mindset you have, in such a, calm confidence, and you're just a powerhouse in everything you do. And we didn't even go into all the things that you do in this video, but if you guys listen to my podcast, if it's up by the time I'm going to upload this video before the podcast, but go ahead and tune into there, where we talk, and Jasmine talks more about, what she does and all those things, because she's truly an inspiring person, and you are doing so much, for your community, for everyone, just by being who you are. And I think that's so very powerful, because the media likes to keep us in fear. The media likes to feed us certain agendas and certain stories so that we are kept down. And when you're in fear, or when you're sad, or you're angry, you are more susceptible to, outside influences, whether it's the media, whether it's negative people, all these different things. But when you come to a place of, okay, I'm going to take care of myself, self-love, love for who I am exactly as I am right now, then everything, outside it doesn't affect you as much, and you become more powerful in that sense. So thank you so much for sharing that, Jasmine. And before we sign off today, what advice do you have just in general for anyone listening?
My advice would be to be yourself and to be authentic to you, because authenticity breeds miracles. It breeds like great things happening to you, because you're not afraid of your own power. And I think that in this spiritual awakening that we are in, a lot of people maybe have realized they haven't been operating at their highest level. They've been afraid of it. They've been afraid of their power and what they can do and how great they really are. And I am here to say to myself and to others, like, it's time. It's time. Like, it's time to open up that portal of your truth and align with it and go forward and do everything you can to get all the beauty, the magic, all that's within you. Like, the world is waiting for you.
Beautiful. The world is waiting for you to be. I mean, I couldn't have said it better. Thank you so much, Jasmine. And thank you for being yourself. And where can we find you?
Yeah, so I am on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at I am JL Thomas. And I too have a podcast called the Mindset Queen Podcast, and I love it. I enjoy the platform as well. And my website is she'sworthy.co. It is under construction right now because I'm going through changes, so my website's going through changes. But it'll be up and running very soon, and more people can connect with my coaching platform and all the other things that I do too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And you guys, please reach out to her if you have any questions or if you're interested in coaching. She has so much knowledge, and she's you're just a godsend. So thank you so much.
And
and thank you guys so much for tuning in with us, and stay tuned for the podcast. It's at Taking Back Your Power on Instagram if you wish to follow it, and keep updated, because not only are we going to have Jasmine, we're going to have also some amazing guests. So I'm so excited for that. But thank you so much, Miss Jasmine, for your time. May you stay blessed and have a beautiful one.
Thank you.